Hello, I am Rabbi Howard Goldsmith, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Rabbi Ira Ebbin. I'm a Congregation Emmanuel of Westchester in Rye, New York, and Ira is a Congregation Ohav Sholom on Long Island. Ira, you've picked a great text for us today. I think we're going to have some good and healthy disagreement on this one. Please introduce.
Okay, well, thank you, Howie. We're going to learn a little about cholent, which is the great Jewish food and the source for cholent, or at least what's perceived as perhaps the source for cholent. For those who aren't familiar with cholent, Google it and come over for this week. You'll have it at my synagogue. The Torah in this week's portion it's actually a double portion. The beginning of the portion of Parshat Vayakhel in Shemot 35, verse 3, it says, which you can see right there, right? Good. It says the following: Lo tvaru eish b'chol moshvotechem b'yom haShabbat. You shall not kindle a fire throughout your settlements, or throughout your dwelling places, on the Sabbath day. And this verse tells us the prohibition. Actually, this is the source of the prohibition of all malacha, all work that is prohibited on Shabbat. It doesn't go through the 39 acts of laws, and this is part of the tradition. The Orach Chaim, the second source tells us in Orach Chaim, Shulchan Aruch Code of Jewish Law 257.8, says the following. At the end, the Ramah, Moshe Isserles, writes, and I'll read in English: it's a mitzvah to seal chamin, or hot foods, for Shabbat, in order that one should eat chamin, hot food, on Shabbat. For this is the honor and enjoyment of Shabbat. One should have hot food on Shabbos, because it's nice. And anyone who doesn't believe in the words of the sages and forbids eating hot food on Shabbat, there is a suspicion that he may be translated as a denier. In the original, it's called an apikoros, which is a heretic. And so basically what the Orach Chaim is referring to, what the Shulchan Aruch is referring to, is the famous debate with the Karaites. The Karaites were a sect that broke off from Judaism around the 8th and 9th century, and they took the literal meaning of the Torah. So the Torah here says you cannot have a flame in your home on all of Shabbat, can't kindle a flame on your home on all of Shabbat, and so that they would sit in the dark and eat cold food all of Shabbos. But the oral tradition, the Torah Shabbat Peh, which has told us for generations prior that this actually permits having hot food on Shabbos that remains on the flame, having lights on Shabbos, having heat on Shabbos. All that is allowed. The prohibition is specifically of lighting a flame. And so, because of these Karaites who believed didn't believe in the oral tradition, the rabbis were encouraging everyone to have cholent, to have hot food that you can serve on Shabbat day, because that will be a testament to say that I believe in the oral tradition and I disagree with the Karaites' interpretation. So, Howie, tell me your thoughts.
Okay. First of all, cholent's delicious. Big fan.
Depends on how you make it, though.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, but generally speaking, delicious. This text really gets to the question of the authority of the oral law, the authority of the Talmud and all of the codes and all of halakha that follow after the Torah, maybe the Tanakh itself. And so the premise here, the challenge here, as far as I see it, is the distinction between the Reform movement's relationship with halakha and the Orthodox understanding of halakha. So I'm going to lay out the Reform movement's understanding of halakha, the role that it plays in Reform Jewish life. And then, while to me it seems maybe self-evident the role of that in Orthodox Judaism, I'd love your perspectives on it.
We should be eating cholent as this goes on, by the way.
I'm wearing I can't risk getting it on my jacket.
I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be dangerous.
Orthodox Jews have no problem getting it on their jacket.
There you go. We can end the conversation now. So first and foremost, the main difference is the level of authority that Reform Judaism puts into halakha and responsa. Responsa being the rulings on Jewish law based on the halakha. So basically, for Reform Judaism, responsa and rulings on Jewish law are not authoritative. They are not binding or obligatory on Reform Jews, on the one hand. On the other hand, when Reform Jews want to know how to do something Jewish, how should we light the Hanukkah candles? Just as a simple example, the only place to go for the answer to that question is the halakha. And so it is a vitally important source for understanding the ways that we are Jewish, the ways that we practice our Judaism. And if you walk into a Reform synagogue on any given holiday or festival, you will see Reform Jews practicing Judaism in ways that come down to us through the halakha, through the oral tradition. So in that sense, it is vitally important, and the distinction is the level of authority. While it is vitally important, it is not obligatory in the same way. That's point one. Point two, for us, halakha continues to be an ongoing discourse, but it never ends. So we don't wait for there to be a majority rule of a certain number of rabbis of a certain tradition to say, this is the ruling. Instead, we look at the discussion as it's gone on for thousands of years. We take it into account as we add our voice to it. So at no point does halakha for Reform Jews become crystallized. It's always an ongoing discourse. And then the third thing is, for us, in some cases, certain moral and religious, what's the right word? Commitments, moral and ethical commitments that we have will override the halakha. And just to give a couple of examples, one is gender equality, 100% commitment to gender equality in all areas. Two is the equality of all humankind. Another would be the possibility and certainly even the desirability of religious innovation and creativity. And finally, we reserve the right in some cases to say the halakha just does not fit with this situation. And a prime example of that might be in questions around the LGBT community, how lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender, how those people fit into our community and fit into Jewish life in general. So there is a kind of a very top-line summary of Reform Judaism's relationship with halakha. It is the ultimate source of our Judaism, of how we practice, and it does not control it fully.
Howie, that was very verbose. Thank you so much for giving me the 30 seconds of time that's left on this program here.
That was like 2 minutes. That was impressive.
I don't know.
That was a whole semester of rabbinical school.
I understand. That was year 3. I don't really know. Let me give you a little bit of background here from the Orthodox perspective. We like cholent, and I'll explain why. Is that we believe in the Torah, and the Torah is binding, and the halakha is binding, and so. But we also believe that when the Torah was given, that both the Torah was given, the written Torah, and the oral Torah was given. So this law of lo tavaru eish b'chol moshvotechem b'yom Shabbat, that you cannot light a flame throughout your house on Shabbat, that a flame is allowed to be existing, but you can't light it. The 39 malachot, the law that says where tefillin goes, that you should bind it on your arms, and you should have phylacteries. Who the heck knows what phylacteries are? And they should be on your head. And where should they be? Beinei necha, between your eyes. Is that over here? Is it over here? So the oral tradition tells us that it's right over here and not between our eyes, as the Karaites would put it between our eyes. All of this, we believe, was given to Moses at Mount Sinai. And that when he came down, he explained what God told him, Halacha Moshe Sinai. And so that's binding. That's what guides our life. We wouldn't know without the oral tradition. We wouldn't know an eye for an eye doesn't mean that we literally take out an eye for an eye. See part of our past editions of sacred text left to right.
Good reference.
See, you like that, right? And so the oral tradition is basically what guides us. Without it, we're really lost. That's what we've talked about before. And so the eating of cholent is, as I said, besides that it smells good and it's the smell of Shabbat and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it adds to the spirit of Shabbat, but it is also a statement. It's a testament that says that we believe in the oral tradition, and the oral tradition is binding, and that's what makes the Torah distinctive from what the Bible is and the old.
Ira, I seem to have lost you for a moment.
I'm back. I got another call. Okay. That was God calling me. No. We've been censored. So the oral tradition, this is a testament that we believe in the oral tradition that's bound us for the last 3,300 years. And we're different than that's where the Torah becomes different than the Bible in the Old Testament. Okay.
I think you've done an excellent job explaining it. I I think what's heartening, and we're always trying to come up with topics that we can disagree on. But for me, what's heartening
This is a good one.
It is on the one hand a big one. On the other hand, both of us look to the oral tradition as the source for Jewish practice,
right,
and Jewish ritual. Not surprisingly, and I think by definition, the Reform movement veers away from it in certain areas and understands its authority differently. But as the source for practice, we have no other source for practice. I mean, that is where we look. Whether we want to know how to light the Hanukkah candles, or which Torah portion to read on which day, or the order of the Passover Seder.
And I think that's very important. And I think it's important for our listening audience, our wide listening audience there. Huge, tremendous. I think it's important that they recognize the role of the oral Torah. The oral Torah is very much present. You could decide what you want to decide on how to observe it and how authoritative it is. But at the same time, it's very much present and dictates how we observe the Jewish traditions and have been observing it for thousands of years. Whether you're Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, or completely unaffiliated, the oral tradition very much exists and is very much part of our lives, was a part of our lives back then and still remains part of our lives on how we observe and how we practice our Jewish traditions.
One of the things that I find very exciting about just the notion of oral Torah is that it says that what is in the Torah text alone, what is in the Tanakh alone, is not enough. That we need to be willing to open our minds and understand the things that are written literally. We need to understand them differently. And it is the oral tradition that allows us to take those ideas from Torah and apply them in a way that makes sense for our lives today. And I think that that's true whether you're sitting in a Reform synagogue in Westchester or an Orthodox synagogue on Long Island. Again, the question comes down to authority, the amount of authority that we place in it, the willingness to innovate and to change practice. I think that those are probably two of the biggest areas of disagreement. Yeah.
And I would only ask that our listening audience appreciate the role of the oral Torah.
Yes.
And recognize, I'll speak to people and they'll say, well, that's the oral Torah. And I'm like, no, the oral Torah is so real. It's so part of our lives, has been part of Jewish tradition forever. And therefore, you can't just push it aside. It dictates everything about, all of our practices.
Right. Exactly. I always tell people, go and try and observe Passover based just on the Torah.
Right.
Go try. It's not going to be much of an observance.
Exactly. Well, I have no idea what time it is, but
no, we're good on time. We should be wrapping it up. Why don't you take final statement here?
Okay. Don't forget to eat cholent. There are different cholents that are all different. They're all wonderful, but cholent there's meat cholent, there's vegetarian cholent. There's people put sweet potatoes to make it sweet, they make it spicy. I make a wicked cholent, or several different types. I encourage people to make a cholent, and I'll tell one quick story, and then we'll go.
Okay.
There's a famous story in the Talmud about Rabbi Yehuda who made Shabbos. I think we might have told the story before. And he made a soup on Shabbos, and the emperor came in and smelled it and said, "Tell me the recipe." And he gives him the recipe. And when he tries to replicate it, he wasn't able to. So he turns over to the Rabbi Yehuda and he says, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, he says, "Tell me, you lied to me. You took out an ingredient or something. What's the secret ingredient?" And he goes, "The secret ingredient."
Oh no, you just cut out. I will say the secret ingredient.
And
you just cut out. You said the secret ingredient is, and then you cut out.
Sorry, the secret ingredient is Shabbos.
The Shabbos spice.
That's what gives it the taste. And when you walk into a Shabbos, to a home or to a synagogue or anywhere that's making a wicked cholent, right? There's no greater smell than that smell. It's the smell of Shabbos. That's my bracha to everybody. Go home, make something that smells great and fills up your home with the smell of Shabbos.
Beautiful. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.